everybody. All the cameras ready? Super. There are quite a few of us, so please just raise your hand to ask a question. Otherwise, the floor is open for protest test. Captain Faf du Plessis. Yes, Gerald.
Faf, in the last few minutes, the ICC has announced that it's going to hold a worldwide review of player conduct in cricket. I think they're calling it enough is enough, with reference to the last few weeks here, but also in cricket elsewhere. Tell us your opinion on that, and also specifically what you think within player conduct in cricket needs to be changed. There's obviously a bigger picture here, but I'm interested also in specific things on the field that you may have a problem with.
How long have we got? I think it's overdue. I remember rewinding to Australia 2 years ago when the Mintgate, we said that there was not clarity in as players. We don't know what's allowed and what's not allowed. So once you have that grey areas, I think a lot of things will happen which shouldn't happen. And perhaps something like this is the good that can come from that is you can be a lot more clearer and players can have a lot better understanding. I'm talking about the grey areas, obviously not the obvious stuff. And there's a lot of that. It's difficult for me to go into every single one of them, but also the penalties. Why is you get the same penalty for something that's year and year? So I think it's good that they're thinking that way, and I think that it's overdue.
I guess the more specific thing is probably something like sledging and how it plays on the cricket field. People talk about headbutting the line.
Yeah.
Do you think that something like sledging needs to be drawn into the code of conduct and you say you can't do this?
I think so. I think it's the game of cricket. I've said many times, I don't think that sledging has that much influence on the way that people play. I think it's a past maybe thing that we thought had a huge impact, and maybe there's one or two guys that will feel a little bit more pressure when they feel there's a bit of verbal on the field. For me, it motivates me when I hear people say things to me on the field. And as I said, generally in cricket, the last 2 years, I haven't felt like that boundary has been pushed a lot with playing different teams. As I said to you in the beginning of the series, that we expecting that from Australia, and that's the way that they play. And it's not. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. What I'm saying is that's the way they play. So we expected that, and their style of play was one of that, as you mentioned, their headbutting on the line. So perhaps this is a nice opportunity for him to reassess how they want to do that. And I'll be honest in saying that I think New Zealand are the front runners in that. They're a team that plays in a nice spirit, and we try and do exactly that.
Okay, so let's go.
We started off in Durban with both you and Steve Smith as captains there. We'll have another Australian captain coming in after you. What have you made of all that has happened, and perhaps of the fact that your team does stand on the cusp of history heading into the Wonders?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy week. I do feel sorry for Steve. I do have compassion towards what he's going through. I think he's one of the good guys, and he's just been caught in a bad place. And he's obviously taken responsibility for that. So, I mean, certainly we're not sitting in a glass house where we think we are better than them in that aspect. It's just, for me, it's a mistake that was made, and I feel it's easier said than done, but I feel they can move on now from that. But obviously, the penalties is a little bit harsh. It's quite hard on him. But I do have quite a bit of compassion of what he's going through. It's not nice. I can see. I mean, you don't want to see any cricketer or any person go through that amount of pain. So I do feel for what he's going through as a captain, and I know as a leader he would have tried to have his identity put into the Australian team, and perhaps now that chance has been taken away from him, that's not nice. I mean, to be a captain of your country is a huge honour, and I know that. I mean, you can see the disappointment. I'm sorry. I do really feel sorry for him.
Faf, you just touched on it, but what do you make of? What's your personal opinion of the sanction? Do you think it's too much?
I think perhaps it needed. What happened now? It's been a state. Hello. That's a shocking ringtone. Wow. I forgot the question. I think you report him for that ringtone. Sorry, what was that question again?
Do you think the sanctions a bit too much, too hard?
I think yes, I think so, but I understand the context of it now as, Australian, perhaps I didn't understand how important it is to them, but you can really see how much it means to the Australian public, the way that they play. So you can understand why they think they need to be so harsh. But from where I'm sitting, I think it is harsh. I think certainly if you go back in the history of where certain players have been in similar situations. But the positive from that is now this is making even the ICC go, well, they're going harsher than our penalties, so it's maybe time that we sharpen up on if you do intend to do something illegal with the ball, that you don't just walk away from it with 3 demerit points and a 75% match fee. And it is obviously quite a serious thing.
Never mind what you think about my ringtone, but what do you think of the theory that's out there that bigger countries like India, particularly England, Australia have done here, but that people like South Africa and everybody else get more of a raw deal from match refs and the ICC than the big countries?
Well, I've been talking about that for quite a while, and I don't feel it's wrong by saying all I've been asking them is consistency. Obviously, this is very, very, very strong what happened here, but I do believe before this series there was a lot of question from us as a team and me as a captain is that the conversations that happens with us and the communication from their side, we don't feel that same communication happens to certain players and certain teams around the world. So, and I've stressed that a lot of times to every time I get an opportunity to a match referee or to the umpires, that all I'm asking for is that both teams get measured in the same way.
It's almost as if Cricket Australia has taken it more seriously than the ICC.
Well, they've shown that they have. I mean, their penalties are a lot harsher. So they've shown that. So that's probably why the ICC is going. It's time for us to look at it, relook at it.
Excuse me, do you have a problem? Do you have a problem? Just one second. No, there's a string of questions that are coming along, so you just have to wait your turn. Thanks, sir.
Sorry.
Rob, Neil, and then over there.
Okay, right.
Remember during sort of mid-gate that Steve, I think, sent a message or spoke to you. Have you had a chance to speak to him or check in? And just like in terms of the penalty, if you were in his shoes, would you be appealing it? He's still got the 6 or 7 days to take a thing.
I did send him a text. As I said, I from a really deep place in my heart, I feel for the guy. You don't want to see guys going through that stuff, and it's going to be incredibly hard for him over the next days. So I just sent a message of support, saying that he'll get through this. He must just be strong, and he was really good. He appreciated the message. So there's a lot of respect between the two of us. I mean, there's obviously a good leader for Australia. And the second part of your question.
In terms of the penalty, if you were in his shoes, and I suppose actually like all 3 of them, would you be appealing?
It's difficult for me to say where I'm sitting in my shoes. I think it's difficult to understand, certainly from the way that the Australian people and the media has reacted. It's all been from an Australian point of view, so how they view it is very, very strong, and it's an absolute no-go for them, and they see it as a time as like a line in the sand almost for them. So I'm not sure. It's harsh, but I suspect someone like him, as what I'm seeing from him, is he wants to take responsibility. I don't know if he wants to appeal or not.
Yes, Neil?
You said that you know what to expect from Australia, and that's what you expect, that antagonistic, aggressive verbal approach. And that's been a culture that's been in place for a long time in Australia. And yesterday, Darren Neiman said that has to change, and that he has to change, and that's no longer acceptable. So 2 questions. Having encouraged that as head coach, having encouraged that aggressive, in-your-face, antagonistic verbal approach, headbutting the line, do you think he's the right man to take Australia into a new era, and do you think they can? Do you think it's possible?
I think people can change, definitely, yes. I mean, we all grow up and we get more mature the longer you play the game. And so, as I said earlier, I don't think there's a right and a wrong way. It's perhaps the way that they believe that they can compete, and for them it's been the right way and they've been successful at that way. But perhaps something like this has shown them now that it's time to move in a different direction, and he said that himself. So maybe the conversation from the top was that it's time that this team, changes their culture or their culture or their identity. And I think it's a nice reminder for all of us that we need to play in that spirit of the game.
You've mentioned obviously a lot of the sympathy for Michael Clark. Given all that's happened in this...
Michael Clark?
Sorry, Steve Smith. Steve Smith, yeah, that was a long time ago. Steve Smith, given all that's happened in this series, what do you think about David Warner?
Sure, I mean, as a captain, the conversation between myself and Steve was on a different level when, obviously we speak a little bit more. I don't Dave personally that well. But this series has been, quite fiery, and a lot of the times he's been in the middle of it. I haven't really heard what he said after all of this. Be interesting to see his thoughts. But similar lines to what Manners was talking about, I think it will be a nice opportunity for him to maybe reflect and see how he can perhaps change the way that he's played the game. Because I don't think that's the only way that you can win games of cricket. So it's a good, as I said, it's a nice opportunity for all of us to a reminder that there's not only just one way. And I use New Zealand as a reference. They don't believe in that, and I think we as a team are on the same length. So perhaps, it's time to reconsider that.
I want to get the last few at the back there for those goes down to Gerald, Ken, and then Khalid, and then last one.
David Warner tweeted an apology. Can you give us a reaction to that?
Well, all three of them was obviously sorry. They see now the blowout that it's had back in Australia. So, I can imagine that you would say sorry. I don't think there's a person in the world that won't apologise for that. So, according to me, they've all accepted they're guilty. They've all put their hand up. They've all taken responsibility, or as far as I've heard in the press. So for me, we all make mistakes. I'm certainly not perfect. I've made mistakes as well, but I've learned from them. And they will learn from these mistakes, and they'll be better for it.
Faf, when you say it's a reflection of all teams having to think about what things they can change, is there something in the South African dressing room that you think maybe that's what we need to look at, or is it just an overall kind of...
No, it's just an overall. I think it's important that you actually see what it means for the public when they watch the game of cricket. So all this nonsense that's been happening away from the field is as a reminder for everyone that it's actually taking too much attention away from the game. And I know we've said that so many times, but I would like here to sit today and speak about, Morné Morkel's last test match, what he's done, us as a team on the verge of creating history, and he's spending so much time talking about other stuff. And I mentioned to Crystal and Supersport now that this series has been so draining. From a, personally for me, as I can sit here and say that we as a team, we're feeling the blowout as well. You're actually feeling drained because there's so much stuff that's going on. So I cannot imagine what it feels like in their dressing room. So it's important for me that we don't lose our mental edge when it comes to playing this last game, because it is a huge game for us. As I said, we're on the verge of creating history.
So Morné Morkel will play?
Yes.
Sorry, I was also going to ask a totally irrelevant question on the actual game tomorrow. Do you have any other team news apart from...
We're going to play the same team.
Joe?
Part of the fallout, sorry to go back there, the international cricket world seemed to direct things in the Australian direction by saying that they deserve it. For a long time they've stood at a high point in the rest of cricket about how they play and how it should be played. Kind of an idea of a moral high ground whilst being bullies. In your time playing against Australia, did you feel like that at all as a captain of South Africa or any of your players?
Yes, but it's expected. I mean, I don't think every team in the world should play exactly the same way. That's just been the Australian way. So it brings the best out of two teams to try and compete against each other at whatever cost, and to try and be as dominant as you can be. But what we've spoken about this series is that line has been crossed too many times, and I've definitely never ever said that we want to try and push that line. So I think there is the learning in this series, that line has been pushed too many times, and that is where the change needs to happen.
That's the last four. Chris, sorry, Khalid, you and then Kaz with the last one.
Faf, did you suspect before what happened with Cape Town that similar tactics were being used at any point in the series by Australia?
I thought so, yes. I mean, the series, the ball has been reversing quite a bit. As you've seen, I mean, I saw that graphic from someone tweeted that how much the ball is reversing. And I joked about it at the end of this last test match that I've never seen so many guys put their hand up to open the batting. Normally it's, green wickets and it's spicy in the beginning, but now the biggest challenge of this series is coming in when the ball's tailing around, whether that's at 30 overs or at 50 overs. So, but I mean, it was just the nature of when the ball was reversing, that's all.
But did you actually suspect, have reason to suspect that they were doing something?
Well, without having any evidence of it, we thought that, there's no way that the ball can go so early. But it's just unheard of for a South African series where the ball is going in this much. And I mean, as I said once again, we try and do the same. We try and get that ball to talk as much as possible. But I think we certainly don't walk around with sandpaper in our pocket.
So you spoke about feeling sorry for Amla yesterday. I'm presuming that some of the players in the squad also feel sorry for the situation. But do you kind of have to remove your emotions from that and put in a ruthless performance tomorrow?
Yeah, that's what competitors do. They want to go in and make sure that they finish the job. I'm expressing what I'm feeling towards a human being and what he's going through. But it certainly doesn't take away from what we're going to try and achieve over the next 5 days. We're going to play that same style of cricket, and I think that's been, for me, remarkable to see this series, how the characters in our team has stood up at different times. And I mentioned before the series how I can see that, or actually after the first test, how hungry the guys are, how motivated they are to try and turn over this Australian team, and that's been the reason why we've been so successful. We've stood our ground and we're leading the series 2-1. So it's a huge next 5 days leading up to it, and we know that Australia is a quality team. They've got a fantastic bowling attack that's going to come out and try and get out 20 wickets again. But we understand there's a few new batters coming in, so there's an opportunity for us to try and expose some of them. I assume that some of them will still be jet lagged, so that's something we can tap into. But they're a very, very high quality cricketing nation. So the next 5 days are going to be tough, but we're really looking forward to it.
Yes.
I appreciate your patience with all the questions about the ball tampering. You did just touch on this before, but the Australian team is saying that they are very confident that was a one-off incident and that it hadn't happened before. Are you a bit suspicious when they say that? Do you believe them?
Once again, I think it's harsh for people to judge when they don't have evidence. I can sit here and say what I think, but without having real evidence of it, I think it is unfair for me to say. So whether it was just really, really good skill and trying to bounce the ball in the right places to try and get it roughed up, or perhaps if there was someone working the ball. But definitely, this series, the ball has reversed quite a bit. And it is, to an extent, it isn't a skill to try and get that ball to talk as quick as possible, because, a ball going straight versus a ball going late and the other way is obviously a lot harder. So, yeah, as I said, and certainly from the next 5 days point of view, we're not going to now stop trying to do that. We're going to keep trying to make sure that we can get the ball to reverse, obviously with what is allowed.
Had your team heard of sandpaper being used? Had the rumour done the rounds?
Well, you've always heard. I mean, sand. Anything that's is rough. So, back in the day, I suppose people would try and get rocks and have it in the hand, or the turf of the pitch that roughs up. The sandpaper has the same effect. It's just about anything that's rough, really, that can scuff up that one side.
Council, the last one, please.
But despite the distractions, massive interest in the series. We hear about 15,000 tickets sold for day one and very good interest for the weekend. Also chatting to the groundsman, they say a fair contest between bat and ball. Have you looked at the surface, and what can we expect in this one?
Obviously didn't get involved with the Wanderers groundsman. Yeah, it looks like a safe wicket. It looks, it's a little bit on the brown side, a lot drier than it normally is here. Normally when you get to Wanderers 2 days before the test match, there is a tinge of grass. It looks a lot browner. Doesn't normally spin here at all, so perhaps think that it might, but looking at the ball, quite dry. And I think maybe day 4 and 5 we will see some up and down.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Faf.